Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto trained by dragons for chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by WOLFLEADER4000 and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. I do not own Naruto, you can pretend I do though. Talking. Thinking. Demon speaking. Usually in the sentence for this one it will usually say kid in it. Jutsu? Dragon's temple. What do you mean you're not going to train me, Kakashi-sensei? Screamed an enraged Naruto at a usually quiet hospital. Naruto, please keep your voice down, we're in a hospital and the reason I can't train you is because Sasuke needs help to defeat that Gaara kid, Kakashi said, trying to calm Naruto. Can you at least lend me some scrolls to learn new jutsus and other things at least, Naruto said with his voice still a little enraged. Sorry Naruto, but I gave all my scrolls to Sasuke and besides your chakra control needs a lot of work before you can master any decent jutsu, Kakashi said blankly. That's why you should train me so I can get better chakra control and then learn with you and Sasuke. Kakashi looked at Naruto straight in the face and said, Naruto, that would just be a waste of time that I could be using to train Sasuke, who already has good chakra. Naruto, Sasuke unlocked his Sharingan and he needs I already got you a new teacher, he's waiting outside. Oh, you must mean the guy who is laying outside on the floor because I just beat him with a clone 5 minutes ago, Naruto spat out. And another thing, Kakashi, you don't deserve to be a sensei, all you care about is your precious Sasuke. And train him to his heart's contempt, while the other two are left to fend for you. Don't even have the decency to get me a good teacher, Ether. You don't even remember your own motto. Naruto, settle down and be calm like me, and Kakashi started, but Naruto cut him off. You know what you can do with your calmness, shove it up your ass, because I'm done with you and this team, and you can only refer to me as Uzumaki-sama. Naruto took this as his time to leave and walked into the village streets. Walking down the streets with his head down, Naruto did not know he was getting surrounded by a mob of villagers and some shinobi. Halt, demon. Said on of the got Naruto to look up to see he was surrounded. What do you people want? Naruto spat out. You disrespected one of the best shinobi in this village that is worth 10 times as much as you, demon brat, said few of the villagers who were swaying back to back. Naruto smelled the stench of alcohol on their breaths. You think just because you're a genin you are safe from use, especially after what you did to this village, a woman with pink hair spat out at one by one the people and shinobi started to walk towards him. Shit, I can't fight them because they are villagers and all the shinobi here were all stronger than him and I can't outrun them all. Humming out of his thoughts, a man with black hair picked him up with his collar and threw him to the dirt street. All the villagers were next to him. Pay attention to us, you brat, because this is going to hurt a lot and I want to see your face. Delivering a kick straight at his, he smiled in pleasure as he saw the kid cough up blood. Other villagers were joining in now and started to kick him mercilessly as his ribcage gave way and started to get numerous fractures. Some of the shinobi watching in the back had enough and started to pull out kine. Falling up to the crowd of cheering villagers, they spoke up, step away from the boy or you all will regret it. One of the villagers yelled out, don't you remember what this demon did to the village and its shinobi? He killed our great Hokage and hundreds of you ninja. The man and villagers glared at the group of shinobi. You have a point, villager, and that is exactly why we deserve a turn too. The tall ninja yelled, smirking at villagers, immediately took a few steps back after kicking Naruto in the face a few times, leaving their mark, and circled around his body and waited with smile as the group of ninjas walked to the small boy's body, now trying to get up even though his ribcage, legs and face was nearly broken. Pathetic, you aren't even worth to be called a shinobi, some of them said, reaching his body as he finally got to his shacking knees only to be backhanded in the face and fell to the ground. Let's practice our kine skills, I think we've been lacking lately in that. Receiving nod from everyone else, he started to pick the boys up to stab him in the gut, drawing his blood all over the street him to the ground. The other shinobi threw kine at him while he curled up to defend his badly injured front. Feeling the cold hard metal pierce his back, he screamed into his arm. I think it's time we practiced our ninjutsu, said the leader of the group of shinobi, taking some steps back. Naruto, thinking they were going away and started to limp away until he heard the jutsu his rival used many times to break into a run. He started to inch away, gaining his pace. Turning around to see in fear as the jonin, taking a deep breath and said the words for the jutsu, fire style grand fireball jutsu. The slightly smaller fireball blasted toward him and hit him dead on, but released the jutsu as he heard one of the others say, Anbu are on their way. Jonin smirked, everyone get out of here, he said as he heard the screams died down from the receding fire. Let's thank our Anbu for warning ourselves from far away or we would have been in trouble, he smirked as he left the scene with his fellow shinobi and villagers, thinking the fox was finally dead. The burned body started to get up almost unrecognizable due to most of his cloths burned exposing burnt up. He realized his legs were healing. Regaining the feeling in his legs he started to run toward the village gate, trying to get away from the villagers in case they come back. I have to get out of this village. For a while he thought it's just too much, he thought to himself. Reaching the gate he ran out the gate past the two sleeping chunin on guard out of the village. He got a couple of miles away until his disfigured body slumped down on a large tree into the intense stings from the burns and stab wounds he suppressed of the fox's chakras start to heal his 30 minutes. Feeling his burns all healed, he looked at his reflection and say the same Naruto from when he woke up. Thank you fox, even though all those people say you're evil, you still seem to be the only one to help me, Naruto thought as he laid down against the tree again and let the fox heal the rest of his body. Nice to know someone finally appreciates me, said a deep male voice from the back of his head. Who are you, show yourself. Frightened Naruto pulled a kine out of his leg ignoring the pain and got ready to defend his body siding against the tree. You can put the kine away, it's me, the great nine-tailed fox, the fox. That's right, and you're the first of your species to ever acknowledge me for anything besides a demon, and I'm truly grateful. We will have to talk face to face sometime, but not now, you get your rest. I will awake you if any danger comes, okay, the fox said, showing a tint of acknowledgement in his voice. Nodding his head he fell into the oncoming darkness surrounding him and fell asleep, feeling the fox's chakra warming his body as the last of his wounds healed. Next day. Naruto woke up feeling the light against his eyes and got up to find the wind hitting his body in the direction away from Konoha. Good to see you're awake, yawned a tired-seeming fox. Good morning to you, Takayubi-sama, Naruto said quietly as he was about to head towards Konoha, but the wind blew him back. That's weird, he pondered to himself. You're right, kid, this is no ordinary wind, it feels strong, somehow the fox stated to the 13-year-old. Yes, you're right, and the wind feels as if it's calling me to follow it. Maybe you should, the fox boomed in his nodded. Seeing there was no way back to Konoha going against the into a run, he jumped tree to tree until an hour later the wind blew hard to the right and he stumbled into an open field. Looking forward, Naruto saw a large compound with do not enter signs all over to the main gate, seeing it guarded by two stone dragons with words written on the right one. The all who wish to enter the temple of the dragons without pure of heart will die. Only those pure of heart may wish to come into the temple and learn its hidden secrets, Naruto read aloud. Slowly placing his hand on the gate he pushed it open and felt a gust of wind almost forcing him to his knees until it died to cause his step. He entered waiting to see if his life would end abruptly, but it didn't. Walking further into the temple he found a pair of massive doors and pushed them open and took some steps in. Seeing that the doors lead underground he continued until he was in the pitch black. Trying to find his way around until the tunnel lit up from the hundreds of green and blue crystals lining the top of the to what seemed to be was the end of the tunnel was a large open dome-shaped area with a massive pillar in the center with a large crystal stone on top that was surrounded by a fall to the depths of earth except for the path in front of him that leads straight to the rock. Walking forward toward the stone until he was right in front of it, seeing the handle of a sword in to pull out the sword, but as soon as he touched it the stone glowed bright greenish blue. The wind started again and blew all the dust of the area he was standing on. Taking a step back and closing his eyes from the dust. Open your eyes and let you see your face, young one, 5 voices said kindly. Opening his eyes he looked to see 5 human-sized dragons, each had an elemental symbol show its element. We are the elemental dragons and we have been waiting for the one worthy of us. Why have you come here, young one? Said the lightning dragon. I felt like the wind was telling me to come here to get stronger and to learn from you now that I have seen you to protect those special to me, Naruto said calmly. Since you came this far we have tested your worthiness, they said all at once. We have seen your life, thoughts, and dreams to the depths of your mind and deem you worthy of being trained. By the final test is to pull the sword out of the crystal, they said. Walking up to the crystal rock Naruto grasped the handle, sticking a small glance at the beings before him. He pulled with all his might only to stumble back as he pulled it out easily. Bringing the sword up, admiring its sword, silver blade was a straight 3 feet long that curved at the was one-edged sword with a golden dragon on both sides of the flat sides. Its name is Dragon's Fury, they all said as once. Holding on the handle while examining, a black sheath came out of thin air and settled in Naruto's other at the sheath. It was black with 2 golden dragons on each the sword in its sheath. So where do I train? Naruto said looking around. Right here of course, said the earth elemental dragon as the ground below him expanded to the walls of the area, making a large floor covering the endless pit around the pillar. Now for your cloths, the lightning elemental dragon said, putting his hands together, and a puff of smoke surrounded. Out of the smoke was Naruto in black shinobi pants and a long sleeve shirt, and he was wearing a black jonin vest on with a black Konoha for head protector on tightly, and he had his new sword strapped to his back. Thank for the new cloths, teachers. You are welcome, but now I need you to make a shadow clone to take your place in Konoha and not ever leave the house and act weak, and if the clone can make more of himself to leave the house and learn new information and then disperse themselves," said the elemental dragons. Naruto did as told and waited for what to do next. "Okay, Naruto, since we have finally found a worthy person to train, we must head back to our world, but we are going to give you our summon, which is obviously the dragon summon." The fire elemental dragon handed him a large scroll. What do I do now?" The dragon's sweats dropped. "Okay, open the scroll, then write your name and blood in an open space, then that's it," said the fire elemental dragon. Naruto opened the scroll and raised an eyebrow to find that no one else ever signed it. Biting his thumb, he signed his name. "Naruto, put your real name please." "What do you mean that is my name?" said a surprised Naruto, even though he did not show it. "Your real name is Naruto Namikaze, and Uzumaki is your middle name. But that's the fourth Hokage's last name." "Yes, and that's because he is your father, Naruto." Taking a step back, his brain put together all of the puzzle pieces. "It's true, that's why the old man keeps saying I look like him," he thought as the realization he saw his first signature vanish, and he bit his thumb and rewrite his new full name. Once the scroll vanished, the elemental dragon spoke up. "Naruto, now that you can summon us whenever we need you to head back to Konoha and retrieve your father's scrolls and what he left you, so we may begin you come back. Your training starts with your new sensei." "But I thought you were going to train me, and where do I find my father's scrolls?" "Well, for starters, we are not the best the dragons have to. Boss of the dragons will train you in ninjutsu of all the elements in Kenjutsu, and as for Taijutsu you will learn your father's style, and as for the scrolls they are hidden behind the fourth's picture in the Hokage's office. I have one more question before I leave. How can I learn all the elemental jutsu if I don't have all the elemental affinities?" Giving them a questioning look. "That's an easy question." All of a sudden all five of them started to glow and the light headed straight into Naruto. Looking at the five dragon, "What did you do?" "We have put a part of use in you so you can have all the affinities," Naruto nodded. "Okay, masters, I'll be on my way, I'll be back in 3 days." "Okay Naruto, but when you come back your new sensei will be here." "Okay." Naruto turned around and left the temple. Naruto's POV. Naruto jumped tree to tree for hours until the sun started to rise from the horizon. "I can't believe it, the fourth is my father and he is the one who sealed the fox into me. That's rich coming from the kid who almost always says believe it," the fox said, chuckling in the back of my head. "Shut up, and we're almost at the village and they can't see me like this or they'll grow suspicious." "Fine, but put on a henge of what you look like before you left the village," said the fox badly. "And because the old man will see right through it, seeing his henge would be easy to see through for even most chunin." "Well, use a high level one then." "Okay, how do I do that?" "Okay, put your hands together and make the tiger and dog signs and put some of my chakra in there too for it to last for 2 days." Sighing in defeat, "Fine, I'll do it your way." The seals, there was a puff of smoke and there stood the old Naruto with his orange jumpsuit. With a up to the front gate he walked past the chunin guard who nodded at him. Heading for the library, he jumped from roof to rooftop until he landed in front of, quietly sneaked in, knowing very well that the lady with pink hair from a few days ago was Sakura's mom, who was in charge of the library, so she would kick him out. Going to the shinobi section, he placed a marker under the shelves of the areas with the best books on what to learn. He sneaked out, not letting the Haruna woman see him. Jumping up to the rooftops, he started heading towards the Hokage's office. With one more jump, he jumped through the window to startle the elderly man reading a small orange book and giggling uncontrollably. Jumping up, he started yelling at me. "Naruto, where have you been? I've been looking all over for you. Where have you been for these past 3 days?" Looking at him calmly, I said, "The only thing I could at the moment." "Old man, why are you reading pornography?" I said, pulling off a straight face. "I never realized you were a pervert." Looking at the book in his hand, he quickly opened a drawer, put the porno smut away, while sitting back at me again. "Damn, he found out. Please don't tell anyone." Naruto, so where have you been?" he said with a tint of red on his cheeks, still showing the embarrassment from earlier. "That's a question for some of your shinobi and villagers." Seeing his face darken, he got up and put a warm hand on my shoulder. "Don't worry Naruto, I will take care of this right now." Getting up again and walked out from the door. A few moments later, most of the ninja in the village were called to the courtyard where some colorful language being yelled out could be heard. Perfect, I thought to myself as I walked up to my childhood and current hero's picture, my father. Pulling it off gently and placed it on the ground. To see a slightly different colored wallpaper covering the wall behind where the picture was once, it off neatly, revealing a blood my thumb and placing it on the seal. It dispersed immediately, revealing the scrolls of his them all and sealed them in one sealing scroll. The yelling died down. I quickly grabbed the wallpaper and placed it back on the wall, exactly where it was up my father's picture. And placed it back on the wall just as the door opened. "Naruto, what are you doing?" said the third. "Phew, I got here just in time. Any later he would have noticed a different wallpaper and get curious." Looking back at him I said I was thinking of all the people that could be my parents, and the fourth looks like me, and no one else has the same hair color as mine besides the fourth, but he couldn't possibly be my dad, right? The third smile disappeared and forced out words to come out of his mouth so he wouldn't draw any attention. Yes, he does look like you if you train hard enough, I'm sure you can be just like the way. How is your training coming along? He said, trying to change the subject, which he succeeded in doing so. I haven't really started yet, and Kakashi went to train Sasuke privately, so I'm learning by myself, I said, going along knowing he was getting suspicious. Oh okay, so Naruto, how do you feel about perverts, Naruto? He said calmly to him. I dislike them all, except for you though, I answered just as calmly back. Here is in sweat drop, that's good Naruto. You know you look kind of tired, maybe you should head to the bathhouses, you know, and I'll even pay. But it's only the middle of the day, I started, and what's he up to? Come on Naruto, I think you'll enjoy this, he said with pleading eyes. Just do it, remember we have to get everything we need and leave tomorrow, this could be your chance to get away before this small talk continues for too long, the fox's words echoed in the back of my head. Okay for you, I'll go, I said, taking the money and jumped through the window and started heading towards the bathhouse springs through the streets, ignoring the glares from the older villagers. You know you could have taken the money and not have gone to the baths, the annoyed voice from the back of my head said. I know, but I just want to see what the old man is trying to pulling first. I stopped in front of the springs and heard giggling coming from the roof. Jiraiya's Pav. Finally the kid came. I've waited 3 days, but at least I had something to preoccupy myself with while I waited, giggling dangerously. Now I can finally train him after I say no, and then he comes back and begs me after seeing how awesome I am. Naruto's Pav. There on top of the roof, staring into the woman's bath area, was some old guy with spiky gray hair going down to his back tied in a pony, was in some sort of getup with jade green pants, and wore a red vest with a kanji for toad on the back, and also had on red ninja. Looked well built and 4 times as strong as the odds against me, I said, and did the smartest thing possibly. Hey you perv, what the hell do you think you are doing up there? I said, seeing him turn around at me, only to be met with a rock to his falling form fall into the girl's bath, where screams were soon heard. About 5 minutes later the toad man ran out of the baths, with 2 very beautiful women with towels wrapped around them chasing his bruised form until he jumped into a tall tree next to me. Both women were threatening him until they noticed me and walked over to me. Are you the one who threw the rock at the perv in the tree up there? One of them questioned. I nodded. I can't stand perverts, they make me sick because they could be looking at another person's wife or husband when they're married, like I want to be someday, smiling at the 2 very attractive ladies in front of him. Oh, that is the sweetest thing I have ever heard, they both said, and hugged his smaller form, making him dive into their cleavage, making him unable to let go of him, and they both gave him a peck on each of his cheeks, drawing a blush from him. There's no need to feel shy, you're supposed to feel like this to girls, they said, walking back into the baths to enjoy it in privacy. Once they were gone the toad man jumped down. Wow kid, you are really good with women, I'd kill to be you a moment ago, he said with a huge perverted grin on his face. Shut up pervert, now if you don't mind I'm going now, and I suggest you don't even think about doing that again, or I'll report you to the Hokage, and the only reason I'm not doing that now is because you're an old man, I said coldly before turning to walk away. You know kid, you're pretty powerful, and I think I can train you to be even more powerful by learning new powerful jutsu, the pervert behind me said happily. I turned around. No thanks, I am fine on my own, thank you very much. You may not know who I am. I am Jiraiya, the famous Toad Sage and one of the 3 Sannin and of the most powerful ninjas in the world, he said, getting into a weird pose. Looking at him I said with mock excitement, oh yeah, I know you're the Sannin who fought in that war a while back and you can do summon the toads. Smirking he said, so you want to be my apprentice kid, he took out his hand and smiled with his eyes closed. No thanks, bye now, I said, leaving the shocked Toad Sage behind. The third was trying to be nice, and so was that Jiraiya guy, but I already have a sensei who is going to teach me, and I have to leave and meet him the day after tomorrow, so I headed back to my house. Pulling out the key I unlocked the door and found the place exactly as it was when I left it, except for the shadow clone on the couch, reading a scroll and giving me a wave. Walking to the closet I pulled out a black shinobi backpack and placed my sealing scroll, 2 water sacks, and some instant ramen, even though he didn't like it as much as he said he did, he actually hated it, into his bag. Walking out of the apartment with all the money he had and headed to his favorite ramen, then took a seat and walked out and smiled at Naruto and walked back into the kitchen and got her dad. Naruto, it's so good to see you, we haven't seen you in 3 days, we were worried. Yeah, but I'm okay now, but I wanted to tell you I won't be here for a while, but don't get worried, I'll be back. But putting that aside, can I have a bowl of miso ramen please? Okay, Naruto coming up. He came back with a bowl of steaming ramen and placed it in front of him. Taking a chopstick and splitting it in two, he started to eat the warm noodles and slurped up what was left. After paying the bill, he said goodbye to them and headed to his. He headed to the bathroom and took a shower and came out in a pair of boxers and hopped in his small uncomfortable bed and went to sleep. Waking up and getting out of bed, heading to the bathroom to do my out 5 minutes later and walking into my bedroom and put on all my black shinobi pants, long sleeve shinobi shirt, ninja sandals, Jonin type vest and his black forehead. Heading to his closet, I pulled out one of my old orange jumpsuits and pulled the swirl of the back and placed it on the back of my vest. Everything he is wearing is black. Lastly, pulling out my sword and strapping it straight down my a pair of ankle weights that become heavier with the more chakra you put into the weight. Come on, like being smashed by a boulder. How can Lee use these, I thought, thinking about the crippled ninja. After doing the henge, I grabbed the backpack and said goodbye to my clone. I headed out of the apartment to one stop I just had to make before I faster and faster. I reached my destination. The Namek is up to the gate. There was a blood seal on it and the entire my thumb and placed it on the seal and watched as it a step forward and saw the seal come back on as soon as I up to the front door. This is it. I pushed the door open and found a large open hall which lead to the living room with a large kitchen next to the large, but there were many pictures on the wall. I decided to see what my mother looked. A picture labeled Minato and Kushina of my father, holding a pretty woman with long red russet colored hair that went to her, had beautiful gray eyes with all the love in the world for the unborn over. The next picture, with a smile from the last picture still in his mind, disappeared as he saw the next one. In the picture was Minato and Kushina with their arms on a boy who looked 5 with his same hair, looks, and signature smile, except for his whisker was all over my face. Could this be my older brother? No kid, that is you, no matter how much the offspring are like to each other, there are still many differences, but this kid is either your twin or you, and since there are no other people in the world with hair like yours, that is you, the fox said, getting interested in all of this. Moving to the next picture, it showed the same boy, or as the fox said me, except only it showed Minato, Kushina and 2 other adults stand behind a kid who looked 5. One was me, and the other was a girl with red russet hair like his mother's, except it only went a lightly bit lower than her, was a bang, curling close to covering her left eyes, that were a beautiful lightly girl, also had the smile of an angel as she had her arms slung over my shoulders, and I had my arm over her shoulders, as well. Who is she? Moving to the second to last picture, I smiled at this was a close-up of the same boy, or in other words me as a 5-year-old, in a meadow of flowers with the sun setting in the background giving of an orange and pink coloring to the clouds. On the same girl was there, and I was holding a bright blue water lily to her blushing form. Still was a stud since age 5, I thought, smirking. Sure kid, you were a stud, the fox said, chuckling in the back of my head. Moving to the last picture, he was a picture of him and the same girl, only they were 8 with my dad hold my shoulder and smiling to my face, and my mom doing the same with the girl, making use both at the date for the picture. It was only a month away from my birthday and the day the big bad fuzzball attacked. DRRRR, the fox growled. We should go or your new sensei will leave before we even get there. You're right, I'll focus on this after the chunin exams. Walking back to the door. I'll come back and find out about my parents and that girl, she seemed like a friend. Come on kid, before the Anbu sensed the barrier went down for a while. Okay, I'm going, turning around one last time before I opened the door and leaped out of the estate grounds and turned back to see the barrier come online to the nearest roof. I made my way to the main. There was a guard there who I recognized as one of the guys who attracted. I put my fingers together, shadow clone jutsu, murmuring it out, and watched as a perfect clone appeared before me and transformed into a medium-sized dog who looked very hungry and cute. Watching the clone walk up to the man and sit in front of the attention of the man who looked under his desk and pulled out a treat, but when he pulled his face up, he was greeted with the sight of the dog's reproductive system, let loose a tide of pee. The dog then ran out of pee, jumped off the counter, started to run off with the angry ninja chasing him with a kine in hand. Once they were out of sight, I vanished and reappeared outside of the gate and started the advanced henge. I traveled faster, pushing myself to the limits, even with the weights on felling, as if I'll fall any second. From the sheer 2 hours, I stopped in a clearing and took off my weights and sat down in front of a large shady tree. Hey fox, how much farther? You'll be there probably at 2 p.m. at the rate you're going. But then I'll still have time to train with my new sensei for the rest of the day, I thought to myself, hoping I'd still to learn some new techniques before the end of the day. If you don't kill yourself first kid, the fox said blankly. What do you know, I won't kill myself, I thought while getting up and grabbing the ankle weights. I started to course more chakra into the and saw the numbers go from 50 to 100 and then back on. I fell to the ground. I have to get stronger or else no one will ever acknowledge me and I won't be able to protect the people, or should I say the person I care about, he thought as a mental picture of the old man passed through myself. To get up, I jumped to a tree branch which creaked from the stress and I started to move faster, gaining more speed, getting more accustomed to the sheer weight in my body. No more stops until I'm just a mile from the compound, I thought to myself. They really are trying to kill yourself, the fox groaned. I frowned. I am not, and I stared to move faster. The sun was now almost at the center of the sky, and it was 1 in the afternoon. I started to slow down about a mile away from the temple and stopped on a large tree branch and sat down and pulled of the. After I did so, I passed out and let the darkness consume me. I opened my eyes and found myself in up. I walked down the sewer pathway feeling the water against my ankles. I walked into a big room with a large cage in front of me. So Fox, this is where you live, I said, looking into the cage, seeing a large pair of crimson red eyes staring out at me. Yes, that is why I have called you here. It's about this cage, he said, looking at me. My eyes lit up. There is no way in hell I'm going to let you out. Did I say anything about getting me out, kid? No, I said, trying to see why he really brought me here, because it must be really important. Okay, so tell me what you need, because it seems pretty serious, I said, all too seriously. Well, I'm tired of this cage, and I want a better place to stay in, so would you change it, with a light-hearted chuckle at the end. My sweat dropped. Is he serious? Okay, and how do I do that? I said, annoyed with all of this. Well, just picture a new happy place and put some chakra into it and a new better mindscape, he said with his tail switching behind him. Nodding, I put my hands together and imagined the most beautiful place, and one seemed to really come into the area around me change. I opened my eyes. My new mindscape was exactly like the picture of me and that girl, except for the giant fox standing in front of me not being held back by a cage. The large fox took a look around and then at me. Nice job, I can get used to this, nice view too, and this area is so big, thanks kid. All of a sudden the gigantic fox in front of me started to shrink and get smaller until he was the size of a small oak tree. I watched with my mouth open as he walked away and sat down on the hill and stared out at the horizon. That will be all for now, kid, and thanks, he said without turning around. After he said his words, I woke up from my mindscape and got up from the on the weights for the third time. I started to jump from tree to tree until the temple came into in front of the gate. I was about to open it when the wind blew again and it opened on its through the temple grounds and came to the 2 great double doors that lead them open. I began my trek down the crystal lit pathway to the large room. At the end of the large room there was a man who looked to be in his late, had black spike hair like mine, and he had on the exact same clothing on as I did, except he had a black mask that covered his mouth like Kakashi, and he had a slash mark across his right eye like Kakashi also, except his eyes were blood red like the fox was sitting down with his eyes closed and legs crossed. He looked into my eyes. So you must be Naruto, my name is Hiro, and I am the boss dragon and your new sensei, he said, getting up and put a hand out for me to shake. I shook his hand. Aren't you supposed to be a gigantic dragon or something because you look exactly like a human? Do not be deceived, I am a huge dragon, except I had to change into a human form to teach you, he said in a firm strong voice which still showed some softness in his voice. But before we start any training, can you take off your shirt, he said it as if meant nothing. Okay, I said, tossing my shirt next to me. Now just channel your chakra through your body and hold still. His seal appeared and with an extra seal on time to get rid of this. While still channeling my chakra, I was going to ask a question until Hiro yelled out something and hit me in my being tired from the trip. Here I passed out again. Next day. Ugh, what happened? I said, waking up and looking around, seeing I was in the same large room as I was before, except I was in a sleeping up. I saw Hiro turn from the spot he was sitting and looked at me. You had on a seal that was messing with your chakra control, and I simply removed it, saying calmly. Thank you. So do we start training now? I said, standing up and walking over to him. Well, aren't you the eager learner, but the question is, are you ready for my training, he said, chuckling, but then goes to a serious voice. I gulped. Yes, I am. Good, because over the next 3 weeks you are going to go through hell and back, he said in a sinisterly with a smirk under his mask. What did I get myself into, I thought. Thanks for reading, give me lots of reviews. Naruto sensei may sound gay, but isn't. You can write your own short stories and send them to me, and I will post them at the end of this main story. Funny short story time. Naruto, hey Sasuke, can I borrow your hair conditioner? Sasuke, no dope, why would you need mine anyway? Naruto, well, seeing as your hair is shaped like a duck ass, which isn't natural, though he has some good hair conditioner for it to stay like that for as long as it does. Sasuke, go away now. Naruto, come on, I'll return it tomorrow. Sasuke, no, now go away. Naruto, you know what, I think you just don't want to share your hair products. Sasuke, Chidori. Naruto, okay, I'm going. Sasuke, finally I can take shower with my special hair conditioner. Hearing a knock on the door, who could that be? Naruto, sexy jutsu. Sasuke passed out from blood loss. Naruto grabs the hair conditioner and leaves. Chapter 2. Chunin exams. My second story, Wapi. I am such a nerd, damn, what am I doing with my life? Well, enjoy people, this is the first story I'm actually writing, so please like it or I'll do suicide. Just kidding, or am I? I do not own Naruto. Some Japanese guy can still pretend I own Naruto though if it will make you feel better. Oh, and some of you have sent me some interesting reviews on my spelling. And Popal God, just say I have to fix my spelling, don't write a paragraph on why my story sucks. You know who you are, but when I reread my story I realized you people were right and I'm new at this and I just figured out how to use the spell check so the story will be more readable. And if any of you think my story are similar to others and you complain to me telling me to change my story plot for like 5 people, well the other one THOUSAND, that is literally how many people read it, are all happy with it, how it is you can forget it, and trust me, I haven't read another Naruto May story like mine, and no offense, but come on, I read all the other stories and mine is different. Oh, and for the people wondering about the pictures, just read this chapter. Talking. Thoughts. Jutsu. Demon talking. Chunin exams. The month has finally come to the end as the exams started, drawing hundreds of people including the Mizukage and her 2 bodyguards, now made their way to the cage box. Mizukage was a tall woman of 21 in age, who was 5 feet 8. She also had long auburn hair that went down to her ankles, the hair at the back was tied in a clump, and she had 4 bangs coming down her face. The first 2 bangs are short, with one covering her right eye, and the other 2 are long, crossing each other on her chest, just below her chin. Walking up the stairs, the Mizukage was deep in though. I never thought I'd come back to this place after what happened, she thought as the bad memories started to come back. Shaking her head, she entered the cage box and greeted the elderly Hokage. Hokage-sama, it's good to see you after all these years. I hear you have some amazing gening this year. The elderly man smiled. Yes, Mizukage-sama, it's good to see you too, and I think you're in for quite a show this year. Really now, she said with a glint in her emerald green eyes while getting seated. Oh, and Hokage-sama, I was hoping afterward we could talk over some peace agreements between our villages. It would be a good time to re-establish bonds with our villages after what happened in the mist. Yes, it would be, but let's continue later. It seems the Kazekage has arrived, Hiruzen replied, turning his attention to the other cage. Good to see you, Kazekage-sama, I take it your trip went well, Hiruzen said with a smile. Yes, it has, and I think it's time we begun. I want to see how well my shinobi do, he replied blankly. Shit, the Mizukage is here, I might have to postpone the invasion. Yes, very well, then let us begin. Hiruzen sighed and gave a hand signal to Genma, who was the proctor for the exams, now that the other was killed for unknown reasons. Genma saw the sign and signaled for the genin to come out and line up. Shikamaru and the others came out and lined up next to each other. Figures Naruto and Sasuke wouldn't show up, leaving me to be the only genin here from Leaf, what a drag. Hiruzen walked up to the railing of the cage box and cleared his voice. Damn, where is Naruto and Sasuke? Can I get your attention please? I am happy to see you all here today to watch the genin exams. It is with great pleasure to see so many younger ninja here today and show their skills through combat and strengthen the bonds between our villages. So without any further ado, let the exams begin, Hiruzen said in a firm voice as the cheers started. The cheers were still going, but died down immediately when the clear blue sky turned into a sea of gray. The gray clouds started to spin wildly in a circle with lightning flashing all around, causing fear from the wind started to pick the center of the swirling clouds. A tornado of fire came down and touched the ground in front of where the genin stood. The fire suddenly dispersed when a lightning bolt went straight through the center. Where the lightning struck walked out unreadable clouds and wind disappeared, revealing the blue sky again. The crowd gasped at the new Naruto. The kid had changed his outfit from an orange jumpsuit to jounin-type cloths. He wore a black long-sleeve shinobi shirt and pants with a black jounin-type vest on with a Uzumaki clan swirl on the back. He also had replaced the fabric of his old forehead protector to a black type of fabric, and he also wore a pair of ninja sandals, and over it all, he wore a black cloak with red flames at the bottom, with a fox on the back, with its 9 tails surrounding a dragon, with the 5 elements circling. What was most noticeable was his sword on his back in its black sheath with a golden dragon on each side. Naruto's Pav. Walking next to where Shikamaru stood and just stood there as if nothing happened the last 5 minutes. Feeling all the eyes in the stadium on me, I ignored them and just stood there quietly. Did you really have to make such an amazing entrance, kid? The fox said, chuckling to himself. No, but I wanted to, I thought as I straightened up to when the proctor finished explaining the rules. Everyone head back except Naruto and Niji Hyuga. And the crowd. Hey Sakura, isn't that Naruto? It looks as if he's got a lot stronger. What do you think? Said an amazed Ino. Taking one look at him, he's still nothing compared to Sasuke. He is nothing special, Sakura replies. Ino just stares at her. Page box. Mei looked at the boy in front of her. He looked exactly like the boy who had left her life when the Kubi attacked Konoha. It can't be him. The boy I knew died when the fox attacked. Back with Naruto. I stayed put and watched everyone else leave until it was only me and the Hyuga. I took off my cloak and threw it into the air and it vanished in a puff of smoke. Just because you changed your outfit doesn't mean you will win, Uzumaki, because the Hyuga spat out. Getting into a Hyuga stance, I am fated to win. I frowned at this and got into my own stance and waited for the gasps which soon came. The stance I got into was the hummingbird stance, the fourth's own special stance which he created himself. Looking into Niji's cold stare, I leaped forward in front of Niji and disappeared in front of him before he could even strike. Reappearing in the air next to him while delivering a roundhouse kick so powerful it sent Niji into the wall, making a large crater. Niji came out of the dust coughing up some blood. I let my guard down for a second there, and it won't happen again, he said, activating his Byakugan. I just looked at him and then got back into my stance as he jumped at me. His hands were a blur as he tried to hit each of my chakra points, but each one only ended up hitting thin air. Seeing that he was getting tired, I decided to go on the offensive. Jumping to the air high above him, I threw a single kine. "Fool, you think you can beat me with just that?" he said, smirking at me as he took a step back to avoid the slow-moving kine. "This kid has issues, and he is too overconfident. That's a plan for disaster," the fox called out in a yawn in the back of my head. "Yeah, that's why I think it's time to end this." I put my hands together and murmured shadow clone technique. Kine stormed. The one kine multiplied to hundreds and started to gain speed at the Hyuga. His eyes widened and kine were about to hit when he started to rotate. 8 trigrams palms heavenly spin. He releases his chakra while rotating, and he was encased in a blue protective shield. All the kine deflected off it, leaving him unharmed but exhausted. "See, I told you can't beat me, I'm fated to win. And right now you're probably wondering why I'm doing this. Is all because of that man in the crowd," he said, angrily pointing a finger at Hiashi, and starts to explain his hatred for the head family. Putting his headband back on, and he got into a new stance while activating his Byakugan. "This is why I'm fated to win." Niji ran up a few feet in front of me. 8 trigrams 64 palms, he yelled out and began his attack. Hitting each chakra point with deadly accuracy. 6 palms, 12 palms, 24 palms, 38 palms, 64 4 palms. How yelled as he hit my last chakra point. "You lose, Uzumaki," Proctor called the match. "He cannot use chakra or move." Genma just looked at him. "Kid, turn around." Niji looked around and saw me still standing without a single mark on me. I vanished into thin air and appeared in front of him. I delivered an uppercut to his jaw, sending him into the air, but I wasn't done just yet. I jumped up to where he was in the air. I kicked him higher up. I vanished again and started to move faster around Neji's flying form, delivering punches and kicks. "Now it ends." I disappeared and appeared on top of him and preformed a drop kick to his stomach that sent him hurtling to the ground, where there was a large crater with dust coming all over the area surrounding the spot where Niji landed. I landed gracefully next to the proctor and waited for the dust to settle down. As the dust settled, there was Neji's beaten, bloody body in the center of the large crater, barely breathing while coughing up blood. Genma raised his hand and yelled out, "The winner is Naruto Uzumaki." I coughed. "Excuse me, Proctor, could you please use my full name, which is Naruto Namikaze, and Uzumaki is my middle name." I said it so unemotionally and started to walk off, hearing the proctor say again who the winner was. "The winner of this match is Naruto Namikaze," Genma said, and started to hear the many gasps come from the crowd. Page box. "Here is inside, so he did find out. I've failed you again, Minato. I guess I'll have to tell everyone now or the villagers might go crazy." "Okage-sama, Sasuke Uchiha has not arrived yet. What should we do?" asked one of the guards in the corner. "We should wait a little longer. The sole purpose I came here was to see the last Uchiha fight, and I'm sure the villagers agree." The Kazekage spoke up from his seat. "Here is inside. Fine, I will postpone his match." The Mizukage frowned at this. "Hokage-sama, I don't think it's right to give special treatment because of his clan. It is unfair to the other ninja." "I know you're right, Mizukage-sama, but the Kazekage has a point, but I will disqualify him if he is late the next time, earning his attention back on the fight that was going on. I hope things will turn out well after all this. I owe Naruto an apology." Time skip. Naruto's POV. Siding in my seat in the crowd, ignoring the hateful glares coming at me even from my so-called teammates. These people never lose their hatred, that is why they will never accomplish anything. Next match, Naruto Namikaze vs Gaara, the announcer called. Getting up from my seat, I disappeared and reappeared on the open field. Looks like that teammate of mine doesn't even care about his own match. Well, makes things easier for me, I thought as Gaara stood in front of me. I got into my stance ready to fight until there was a puff of smoke and Kakashi and Sasuke came out. The crowd went crazy seeing their special Sasuke. I frowned at this. I seem to frown a lot these days, it's becoming a habit. "Are we late?" said the jounin of the two. "Yes, you are. I am sorry to say this, but Sasuke has been disqualified, so may you please step of the field," Genma said, seeing the anger build in the young teen. "What do you mean, Ihira Renti? I soul be able to fight?" the boy yelled, balling his fists as he were ready to explode. "Let him fight," I said calmly, gaining the three's attention, getting a surprised look from the jounin. "Are you sure, Naruto? It would be unfair to you and the other remaining genin," Genma said nicely but firmly. "Yes, let him fight," I said unemotionally. "Fine if that's what you want," Genma sighed. Finally you understand your purpose, dope. Now get off the field so I can show this and Jenin how it's done, he said in a high and mighty voice with a smirk. I glared at him who said I wasn't going to fight, I said, getting in the hummingbird stance, while at the same time Gaara took the cork on his gourd off and let his sand start to flow out. All Sasuke did was smirk and got into a taijutsu stance he learned from Kakashi. Genma was about to intervene when they all vanished. Shit, this is not part of the rules, but then again there are no rules, sighing I just stepped aside to watch the show. Page box. What the hell are they doing? This is supposed to be a one-on-one fight. Hiruzen yelled and hit his fist against the armrest, startling the other people in the room. What is wrong, Hokage-sama? This is very entertaining, and the crowd agrees, the Kazekage said, getting more and more interested in the fight, smirking. Let's see how well Sasuke-kun does. The Hokage seemed to get madder. Kazekage-sama, do you know why it is a one-on-one battle? It's because something like this will never happen. 2 Leaf Genin vs 1 Sand Genin, it is unfair to your own ninja. Hiruzen was suppressing his urge to scream. The Mizukage thought it was a good time to interrupt their angerment. Hokage-sama, I think you should look at the fight, she said, not even looking at him because her eyes were glued on the battlefield. Hiruzen looked down and was surprised by the battle he was watching. Naruto jumped back from one of Gaara's sand attacks and then jumped towards Sasuke and delivered a kick which he blocked and then started to jump away at Gaara, again dodging kine that Sasuke threw at him. Quite a battle down there, said a new voice. Hiruzen turned around startled but soon smiled as he saw his former student Jiraiya standing next to him. The Kazekage mentally screamed, shit, Jiraiya. Naruto Pav. I dodged some of the kine and grabbed the last one out of thin air and threw it at Gaara, whose sand blocked it. I jumped to the side and saw Sasuke dodging some of the sand, preoccupying him. This is my chance, as I started to run up from behind and pulled out 2 explosive tags and threw one at Gaara and the other at Sasuke. Gaara turned around just to see the tag blow and spread dust all over the area, and Sasuke dodged, seeing it with his now activated Sharingan. Out of the dust there was a sphere of sand with smoke coming off of it. I looked over to Sasuke, seeing he was staring at the sand. I vanished and reappeared next to him and did a roundhouse kick into his gut, but he tried to block with his arm but wasn't fast enough and flew a good 100 feet away and landed on the ground and struggled to get up. I turned my attention back to Gaara not a second too soon as I dodged an incoming wave of sand. I jumped to the side and threw some kine with explosives at him, but he just closed the hole he was looking through and the attack had no effect. It's time to change tactics, I can't just rely on taijutsu, it's time for something else. Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu. I jumped into the air and looked to the spot where I was just standing get incinerated. I landed and saw another fireball heading my way. My hands became a blur as I started to go through the hand seals required, stopping at the last and yelled out water style. Water Dragon Jutsu. A giant dragon of water appeared out of a small pond at one end of the field made by my flashy entrance and took the blast of fire and headed for the sand user. Seeing the threat, Gaara put up a sand barrier that took out the dragon of water, leaving water to splash everywhere. He put his hands up and sent his sand after Sasuke and me. I dodged a first sand attack and then the second and put the next set of hand signs together and yelled out wing release. Gale Force Hurricane. The sky turned gray again and a miniature hurricane covered the entire stadium and the strong winds were messing the sand user's aim. He tried to hit me, but I kept dogging each attack, easily dogging them. Seeing Sasuke charging at me in the middle of his hand signs, I started to race through my hand signs and we both yelled out our jutsu at the same time. Fire style. Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Lightning style. Lightning Barrage. Fireballs started heading towards me, but I dodged them since the wind was still messing up the aim of the opponent's jutsu. I watched Sasuke stop his jutsu as he started to dodge incoming lightning bolts. Seeing him occupied for the moment, I turned my attention back to the sand user jumping up into the air dogging the sand and vanished and reappeared above where he was and started to go through another set of hand signs and stopped on the tiger seal. Fire style. Fire Dragon Jutsu. I blew the stream of fire from my mouth and watched it transform into an imposing dragon that raised down at the sphere of sand and made contact. The sand became superheated and started to turn to glass. Once the entire shell became a clear glass, I could see Gaara with his arms crossed staring up at me. Suddenly the glass turned back to sand and raced up at me. Shit, I can't dodge, I mentally screamed as the sand engulfed me. Even though I was buried in sand, I could still hear Gaara say the words of his jutsu. Prison Sand Burial. Everyone in the stadium watched in horror as the sand compressed with the boy still inside. Blood spilled out of the sand and splattered to the ground. Whole stadium grew silent as the child that housed the Kubi was killed before them in a horrible way. Sasuke seeing his teammate killed before his eyes and only one word came to his mouth as he jumped on the wall. Fool. Page box. Hiruzen yelled out at the top of his lungs, Naruto. Hiruzen felt tears coming to his eyes, the grandson figure child he cared for was just killed before his eyes. Jiraiya held back the urge from screaming, seeing Minato's son get killed right before him, and he didn't do anything to stop it. The Mizukage was on the verge of tears as well. She just witnessed the death of the last Namikaze that could have been her childhood friend's cousin. She looked down, remembering bad memories from the past come back. Her bodyguards could only watch their Mizukage with sadness, knowing that if they spoke they will make her look weak, especially because of her age of only 21. The Kazekage just smiled. With that kid out of the way it will be easier to get Sasuke. Battlefield. The crowd in the arena were still silent after what they witnessed until one man got up and started to clap, drawing in more clapping as the extreme Kyuubi haters joined in. Sasuke just ignored them as he went through the hand signs for his most lethal jutsu. Chidori. Sasuke started to run down the wall with his lightning-encased hand dragging behind him, tearing the wall apart. He jumped off the wall and started heading straight for Gaara. Gaara, seeing the Uchiha racing towards him, he started to send sand after him, trying to slow his advance, but failing as Sasuke dodged the incoming sand and was about to deliver the death blow. In a flash of yellow, Sasuke was kicked in the stomach and Gaara was kicked in his face hard. Sasuke got up from where he landed and looked to see Naruto standing where he once stood. Naruto's pav. I looked back and saw Sasuke getting back up, and I got ready to fight again until I heard screaming coming from inside the shell of sand. My blood, my blood, my blood. The screams were heard all around the stadium, sending chills down people's spines. I looked at the sphere of sand and saw it slowly coming apart. I watched as Gaara walked out of the sand. Half of him looked normal and the other half looked like the one tail. Gaara started to sway back and forth, seeming of balance. This is my chance. Within a second I vanished and reappeared in front of Sasuke and kneed him in the jaw, sending him flying into the air. I jumped up in the air again and kicked Sasuke even higher. I disappeared in the air next to his flying form and I made one hand sign. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. 5 other perfect versions of me appeared all around Sasuke's flying body. Each did a mid-air backflip and did a kick to his body, causing him to cough out blood. The force of all the kicks sent Sasuke down at the earth, creating a small crater. I landed next to the proctor. Call Sasuke out of the match. I'll finish of the last one, I said, and went to Sasuke's unconscious form and put him in a stretcher. Sand bullet. I backflipped back to dodge the incoming bullet of sand. I looked to see a little more of Gaara's body covered in sand. Okay, I got to finish this fast. I started to run at him, dodging his lengthened arms of sand at me. Getting up close enough I punched him as hard as I could. Seeing my fist make contact I expected to see him fly away, but instead his sand took the blow and just rippled violently. I tried to pull my hand out, but to no avail. I looked into his emotionless eyes with my own. He still has some control, that means there's still time left. He held me by my arm and threw me across the stadium. I could see the people in the crowd only as blurs, but soon stopped due to me hitting the wall on the other end. I felt my bones start to break from the impact. I slowly got out from the rubble. Fox status report. Well, you broke your ribcage, your left leg, and your spinal cord is out of shape, your new personal record, the fox said sarcastically. Well, how long till I am back to normal, I said, looking at Gaara's body changing faster. 5 minutes at my fastest, the fox said, now all of a sudden serious. Okay, I jumped closer until I was only 100 feet away. Finally someone who can prove my existence, ha ha ha, he said, but his voice started to sound demonic. Page box. Hiruzen looked at the boy on the field with sadness. Balling his fists he yelled out, we have to stop this or the one-tailed beast will be released in Konoha. He said, making a motion to get up. No, let's see how this plays out. It seems like that other kid down there has it under control, right, Mizukage? The Kazekage said sadistically. Mei came out of her thoughts and looked from the Kazekage to the field. I'm not so sure, the kid just took some major damage, he could get killed on his own, Mei said, getting more serious. If things get out of hand we will just jump in, the Kazekage said with a smirk and returned his gaze back to the battle going on. Naruto pav. I pulled out 2 explosive tags and threw them at Gaara's form, who jumped to the side and shot another sand bullet at me, which I dodged. Fox, how much longer? I can't just stay far for too long or he'll fully transform and the ensuing fight will take out a large part of the village, if not all. Don't worry, just one more minute and your ribcage will be fully healed, the fox said in a focused voice. Okay, I ran closer, dodging his sand arms the best I could while weakened, but getting hit in the sides was very discouraging. I jumped farther away out of his grasp. I looked at him, analyzing him for weak spots until he went through some hand signs. Sand waterfall, imperial funeral. The entire field started to be covered in sand, seeming to come from his body. I jumped into the tree near the end of the field, knowing that this was a large-scale version of his previous jutsu that killed me. Hey kid, you're all set, the fox said, letting out a sigh. I smirked and I pulled on the inside of the collar of my black shinobi shirt and pulled out a mask that covered my neck and mouth. I pulled of the training weights around my legs and threw them to the ground and few meters in front of the tree, causing sand to fly everywhere from the weight of 600 pounds. I jumped through the sand unseen until I appeared out the other side of the cloud of sand and started to run on the desert-like landscape, even though some of the Jounin thought was foolish, knowing the other kid there could control sand. I could feel the sand under me give way, but whenever that happened I would just increase my speed, frustrating the one-tails even more. Once I got close enough I jumped into the air. Gaara saw this and sent his sand hands, no pun intended, up after me. I smirked under my black mask. This is too easy. I jumped on the arms and used my speed from getting caught as I jumped higher and higher, using his hands as stepping stones. With one final leap I was at the same height of the top of the dome in the air. I pulled out a single three-pronged kine and threw it straight at Gaara's almost fully consumed body. I put my hands together and yelled out mass shadow replication technique. The single kine multiplied to thousands with only a few actually falling near Gaara as they were littered all over the field, each one in a foot distance from each other. I started to fall now. I smiled and then vanished in a bright yellow flash and reappeared behind Gaara, startling him, and he turned around and swiped at thin air. He turned around and was punched straight on his normal side of the face, breaking through the sand armor, causing blood to flow down. I started to keep disappearing and reappearing all around him, hitting him all over, causing great strain on his body from the constant punches and kicks. It's time to finish this. As I appeared on the far side of the kine disappeared in puffs of smoke and left only one, which I picked up and placed in my pouch. I put both my hands out and started to concentrate on my chakra manipulation in my hands. I yelled out my new techniques names. One was my father's and the other my personal version. This is going to drain me, so Fox, be ready if this doesn't work. Wind release. Rasengan. Lightning style. Rasengan. The swirling chakra in my hands were like miniature hurricanes in the shape of hand-sized spheres. One was made from wind and the other from swirling lightning. All the people in the stadium were shocked seeing this kid who holds the 9 tails was able to use the fourth technique, making some of the crowd begin to really believe he was the fourth son. I ran at Gaara full speed and was barely visible for even the high-level Jounin and Anbu to see. Gaara was unable to even see it coming until he got hit in the gut upwards by the wind Rasengan and flew into the air, spinning around. I appeared over him and plunged the lightning Rasengan into his now exposed gut and sent him hurtling at the ground at a dangerous speed. His body hit the earth and created yet another crater in the ground. I landed on the ground into the newest crater and saw Gaara's twitching form with no sign of the one-tails. He started to try to get up and once on his feet with his knees wobbling beneath him. Before he knew it I yelled out seal and hit him in the gut, strengthening the seal and effectively knocking him out. I pulled out of the crater and pleased him on my shoulder as I walked to the medical ninja and placed him on the waiting stretcher. Genma jumped down onto the field yet again and looked at him and believably raised his hand and yelled for the entire stadium to hear. Winner of the match Naruto Namikaze. Half a crowd booed while the other cheered. Some people never change, I sighed. Proctor, do I win? I asked out of breath. Sorry Naruto, there is still Temari left. He looked at me understandingly and pulled the senbon out of his mouth. Next match Naruto Namikaze vs Temari. I watched Temari walk on the field across from me. I lend this fast, I'm not in the mood to fight, ready Fox. I pulled out my sword that everyone had forgotten about until now. I like to only use it when I face another swordsman, for fun, and when I am out of chakra. Ready when you are. I opened my eyes, showing the normal cerulean pupils had disappeared, leaving 2 crimson red ones with black slits. I started release tons of Kai, and with the fox's help everyone standing fell to their knees, except for the stronger people. Temari fell to one knee. She raised her hand and said I forfeit in a defeated voice. I stopped releasing my Kai, and the people kneeling stood again. I looked at the proctor, who looked at me. The winner of the chunin exams is Naruto Namikaze. The crowd started to cheer half-heartedly. The Hokage and the other cages minus the Kazekage, who left right when Naruto beat Gaara. Hiruzen smiled at me. I knew you could do it Naruto, I'm sure your parents would be proud. I'm sure he would now tell that to everyone else, I said, pulling down my mask, still out of breath. I'm going to collapse in second, just hold out for a little longer, I have to see this. Hiruzen sighed, fine Naruto, but there is something else too, he said, pulling out a bright glowing scroll with some very powerful seals placed on it. I started to scroll, wondering what it was, until I broke out of my thoughts when Hiruzen yelled to the crowd in a stung firm voice. I'm sure you all have been wondering what's been going on today with Naruto. Well, the answer is that he is the son of the 4th Hokage and the sole heir to the Namikaze clan and Uzumaki clan. He waited for that to sink in. I looked around from Hiruzen to the crowd until I heard it. That's impossible, the demon brat can't be the 4th son, he is just a demon. Some random person yelled and others joined in. That is enough. And Naruto is the 4th, there is DNA evidence, and also Hiruzen pulled out a picture of Minato's face and put it next to Naruto's, and the crowd went silent. Lowering his voice he looked at me. Naruto, there is something else you have to know about this scroll, he said, passing it to me. Naruto, you weren't born on the day that the Kyuubi attacked Konoha, you were born 8 years earlier, he said softly. My eyes widened. I kind of suspected it, but it's still too much. I listened closer to Hiruzen. Naruto, when the fox attacked Minato, had to seal away some your spirit and physical body to that of a baby, because if he sealed the Kyuubi in you as an 8-year-old, you wouldn't have been able to contain. He did the seal. It was a very special scroll from the Uzumaki clan that had special abilities and was the last one in existence. Your father said that only you can open it, and when you do you will age 8 years and be 21 if I'm correct. He finished explaining sadly. I only asked one question on my mind, why? I looked at Hiruzen, hitting my emotions as well as I could. Because you said you wanted to do it to protect the village. It was a hard decision for Minato, but in the end he gave in to you, seeing your determination. So are you ready to open the scroll? We could open it tomorrow. You seem tired. I stood up firmly, even though I could probably stand for another minute or so, and said yes. But Naruto, I cannot tell you of your life before the fox attack or you won't regain your memories fully. I nodded and bit my thumb. While this was going on, the Mizukage who was next to Hiruzen was on the verge of a mental breakdown. I can't be, he died. I know he did. The Hokage sent me a message himself. But what's happening in front of me? This can't happen. This could be him if the story the Hokage said was true. She was starting to get tears lining her eyes. I placed my hand on the scroll and there was a bright light as the words wrapped around the scroll came up and started to fly. Arid. The scroll unraveled and then the light shone at me and I felt something was a bright flash and everyone in the stadium was temporarily, the light disappeared. Everyone was surprised at the grown-up form of Naruto. There in front of Naruto stood Naruto, now 5'11", and his hair was a little bit longer and dropped down a bit. His face looked more mature and exactly like the Minato's, and his whiskers had faded a little and were slightly visible. Other than that, he was still dressed the same. I staggered from where I was and pulled myself up and looked around, seeing that I had grown taller. Maze Pav. She couldn't take it anymore. The boy she thought was standing right in front of her. She had been lied to for the last time and her tears started to flow and she didn't give a damn about it. Naruto. She said loud enough for them to hear, and in a second she was crying into Naruto's chest. Naruto, I've missed you so much. I thought you were dead. She said, now looking into his face. Naruto's Pav. Looking down at the girl in his arms. She knows me? Who are you? I said, but the look of sadness increased as her heart broke. You really don't remember me, Naruto, she said, sobbing more. Please Naruto, try to remember me, the girl said in a hushed voice while looking into my eyes. I looked into her green emerald eyes, those eyes. They were the same from the girl in the picture. I know you're the girl from the picture and your name is. Without me noticing it, my body gave way below me and I collapsed into her arms from chakra exhaustion. What if Naruto trained by dragons for chunin exams? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys next video.